Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX's marathon coverage of 101 milestones that have, of course, been achieved towards building a new India. We're tracking all of this under the Bharat Progress Report. We've already gone through significant milestones already, but now it's time to turn our focus to infrastructure. And before we do that, let's quickly introduce our live guests with us. We have Rishabh Gulati, Editor-in-Chief of NewsX, joining us live. Also with us live is Pathikrit Pine, Senior Analyst and Journalist. Let's quickly, without further ado, go across and tell you about the next big milestone, that is number 31 that has been achieved. Well, it of course is that 3,500 road building projects, including 217 bridges, have been completed already in the very crucial Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, why is this very, very important and significant, Rishabh?
The final test of are we making progress in Jammu and Kashmir has to be measured on are the people of Jammu and Kashmir, Indian citizens, seeing it on the ground. And no way can you see it more if the road connectivity in a place where communication is in many parts purely about physical access. This is crucially important. So have a look at the achievement milestone of 2024, 3,500 road projects, including 217 bridges, because in a terrain that is mountainous, bridge building is crucially important. Most difficult thing to do, built just in Jammu and Kashmir, big achievement for 2024 there.
Absolutely. Let's quickly, of course, take a look now at the next big milestone, number 32, which also, of course, has been achieved. Now, the number of operational Vande Bharat Express trains this year rose to 136. Yes, 136 already. Very, very significant. This, of course, is an absolutely path-breaking train, Rishabh. Now 136 of them.
You know, when the Vande Bharat started, not too long ago, 5 years ago in 2019, India started its first Vande Bharat Express, okay? High speed, capable of hitting 150 kilometers an hour, completely different modernized interiors, the way you sit, the service, the booking, everything fundamentally changed. Just 5 years ago, we got our first Vande Bharat train. Just 1 year ago, we had 35. So we have now hit 136. 136 routes that are being traversed by the Vande Bharat Express in the avatars that are operating. One, of course, is the intercity. Now, of course, you're talking about intra-region expresses, which are, of course, the orange trains that you've seen from the white trains. Big milestone, exponentially increasing.
Absolutely. We've all taken them and we can vouch for their comfort and, of course, their transformation of the railway. But speaking about railway, let's tell you about one more big milestone. That is number 33. India's rail electrification has, the rollout of it, in fact, has now hit the very crucial 97% mark. Now, why does that, this percentage mark become very important?
Okay. Running a country in which your rail locomotive still requires diesel, okay? Electrification, crucially important to rail infrastructure in this country. We are now at 97%. That means we are nearing saturation, that every kilometer of rail track in this country will have an electric line, which means that the diesel locomotives will only be required for outages and emergencies, which means that our entire rail infrastructure, which transports the population of Australia every single day in this country, will be reliant on electricity, which means that if you can increase more and more of the electricity to be renewable, you're going to reach a stage very, very shortly where the amount of fuel being consumed by the railway infrastructure becomes near nil or net zero. Wow, what an achievement that will be.
Pathikrit Pine, let me quickly draw you in here on, of course, a two-pronged question for you. One, road connectivity improvement in Jammu and Kashmir, very, very crucial state where this was needed, of course, and also rail electrification rising to that significant percentage, along with introduction of these, super comfortable and super speedy Vande Bharat Express trains now, 136 of them.
Yeah, good evening to both Uday and Rishabh. See, first and foremost, in the larger context of economic growth, if India's economy had to, be in a position to absorb more investments, then it required a quantum leap in terms of infrastructure development. And to that extent, in the last 10 years, there has been an enormous amount of work that has been done by Prime Minister Modi in terms of taking the infrastructure growth, entire template to a completely different dimension altogether. In that respect, Project Gati Shakti has worked tremendously in terms of doing away with a lot of inter-departmental red tape and things that were hindering the process. The PMO played a critical part to work in terms of spearheading all of that. In terms of railway, there are two things I must say. Number one, connectivity plays a very critical role in terms of bridging the rural-urban divide. Number two, it plays an enormous amount of positive role in terms of reducing the dependence on cities. For example, somebody staying in Meerut today can actually come to Delhi or go to Gurgaon and work and go back to Meerut because of the regional rapid transport system. That was not the scenario probably 10 years back. So that actually helps. If you look at India's development, even during the COVID time, when we emerged in the fifth largest economy of the world, which is today almost a $4 trillion economy, primarily it's because of the investments that government of India did in infrastructure.
Absolutely. Those investments, of course, are seeing now dividends reaped already. Stay with us, Patikrit. In fact, we're turning now to more milestones as well coming in. In fact, the big milestone number 34 achieved was that the number of 5G mobile subscribers in India has now crossed the 270 million mark. Now, that is a big achievement, Rishabh. What does that number really mean?
Okay, I just wanted to imagine this. So, because of the time scales we're looking at, it's all recent memory. October 1st, 2022, the first 5G service rolls out in India. Okay, we are in the beginning of 2025. So, October 1, 2022, 5G rollout begins in India. By the end of 2024, 5G is available in nearly 70% of the country. 270 million 5G subscribers with a mean average data speed of 300 Mbps access. So, everybody is not the same, some are going to get better, some are going to get worse, but on average a 5G subscriber, which means nearly 300 million people in this country just on their phone are getting an average data speed of 300 megabits per second with a near 100% rollout. There are some companies like Vodafone, etc., we still have a long way to go, but Reliance, Airtel have near saturation of coverage in this country. Okay, we reported on Uday the 5G map of India changing. Okay, and what this means is that in terms of the average speed of 5G in the rollout, India is now ranked 14 globally. But when it comes to broadband availability, India just 2-3 years ago was ranked 118 in the world. We are now 15 in the world because of this rollout. Indigenous 6G is coming to India next, which means you're going to make the 6G technology and the towers and the communication chips all here indigenously in India. And this also then plays into the fact, which we've covered earlier, that every single consumer of data in this country per capita is consuming 20.27 gigabytes per month, nearly 1 GB per day. Do the math, 800 million people doing 1 GB a day, which means every day 800 million gigabytes of data are traversing India's networks all in the past few years. It is a remarkable thing and of course qualifies as a major milestone.
Okay. Yes, it is certainly a major milestone, of course. And what is major milestone number 35? Well, that is now on the Surat Diamond Bourse. The Surat Diamond Bourse, the world's largest office building, in fact, has been inaugurated this year itself. That's that, fabulous building over there, a huge diamond bourse there in Surat in Gujarat. What makes it special, Rishabh?
Our nascent industries which have been operating in this country which have become dominant global players. So 90% of the world's diamonds are polished, cut and polished in India. 90%. Okay. But our concept of these industries is that there is a broken down workshop, okay, in an old part of the town where people are sitting under one fan, one light and operating, okay. Now, when you create infrastructure for these people, so these are not poor industries, these are dominant industries in which our infrastructure was so bad. So now this qualifies many historic records, but the one you highlighted is the world's largest single complex office building, okay, the world's largest office building. In sheer square footage, in sheer parking spots available, in the sheer number of people that can work there. It's not maxed out, but it will one day. And that tells you that we are now modernizing how our trade infrastructure is working at a global standard scale. So the world's largest office building is now in India.
Yes. The next big milestone, of course, that was achieved was on, again, on, of course, the roads and highway connectivity. So India this year built 27 kilometers of new roads every single day in 2024. That is a fabulous pace now that has been achieved by us, Rishabh.
Okay, so this is a complex figure, and the reason this is a complex figure is because of the data that comes out from the ministry, the government, state governments, is variegated. Variegated, that means they're looking at financial years, they're looking at quarter on quarter growth. We have done better than this in the past. So we've hit 35, 36, 37 kilometers. We have a target of being able to make 40 kilometers. But on average in this country, with certain ups and downs that have taken place in the course of the year, 27 kilometers of new roads have been built every single day. Okay. Now I want you to think of the figure 27 kilometers. Because in the scale of the country that doesn't sound quite a lot, okay, but 27 kilometers means that the distance between where I am standing in Delhi and Meerut, imagine building that highway in 2 days, okay, that's the sheer scale. And the good thing about this kind of infrastructural milestones is that you can see it. You can sit on it, you can travel on it, you can, no matter what you're traveling on, if you're traveling on a mobike, it has affected your life to the better. If you're traveling in an auto, your life has become better. If you're traveling in a motor car, your life has become better. If you're traveling in a bus, your life has become better. And you can see these highways that are being built, not only brownfield upgradations, but greenfield projects.
Yes, indeed. So, of course, that pace is something to be proud of. Now, India in the 37th biggest milestone this year has in fact doubled its medical colleges. MBBS seats as well have risen 130% from 2014 to 2014. Now, why is this very crucial?
Okay, so let me put that into context. So we discussed under people's welfare 5 new all India institutes of medical sciences, you know, in non-city center places, so not Delhi, Bombay. You're talking about Rajkot, you're talking about Jammu and Kashmir, okay? But in brass tacks, when we talk about how many doctors can be produced and trained in this country, how many people who give the NEET exam and then struggle to get a seat, okay, then we discovered that so many people are training to be doctors in Ukraine, in Russia, okay, because they can't find MBBS seats in India. Well, here's the figure to put it into perspective. The number of medical colleges available has doubled, okay, so we've hit that milestone in 2024. The number of medical seats has more than doubled. So in the existing colleges, the seats have gone up and new colleges have come up. So now India will, from 2025 onwards, every year will be producing more than double the number of doctors every year. Okay, that is not a small mean feat. It's a big milestone.
It is a big milestone. Let me take that milestone to Pathikrit Pain. Pathikrit, not just, of course, is the number of seats increasing by this manner very, very important, but I'd also like you to weigh in, of course, on the other milestones we've spoken about, of course, from 5G connectivity rising to, of course, also having the pace of highway making rising to also the diamond bores. This is, you know, a significant achievement, not just for us in India, but it's something that the world will now look at and say, wow.
Oh, absolutely, Uday. First and foremost, as has been rightly mentioned by Rishabh as well, I just want to add one thing when it comes to telecommunication in this era of digital transformation driven by AI. that kind of transformation so far, when it comes to 5G was imperative for India. Preceding the 5G was making broadband feasible and viable for the common man. That played a critical role to ensure that the Indian economy continued to work from home, literally, even during the peak of COVID time. And therefore, even in spite of the initial hiccups, the Indian economy actually revived and had amazing growth rates, which most of the other economies, major economies of the world could not. So the digital transformation that Prime Minister Modi led in the last 10 years in terms of making it viable, in terms of making it profitable, in terms of making it affordable is a very critical landmark. Secondly, highways have always played a critical role in transformation of countries. John F. Kennedy had once stated that America, has good roads, not because it is rich, but it is rich because it has good roads. Therefore, connectivity plays a critical role, especially if you look at farm industry, where you have perishable commodities. Access to market is so very important. So, connectivity plays a very critical role in that realm. When it comes to medical, it has already been mentioned rightly by Rishabh in terms of the number of MBBS seats, especially in the, postgraduate arena, the number of seats were always very limited. Now it has increased. We should not look at it only from the perspective of the number of hospitals that are coming up, the access which has increased for the common man. But look at how India has transformed as a hub for medical tourism.
Yes.
In terms of the number of people who come from Middle East, from South Asia, from Southeast Asia, because this is a country which gives viable, affordable, and yet quality treatment. So purely in terms of economics, if you look at it, it generates an enormous amount of employment. So whether you talk about, the digital transformation, the highway transformation, the medical infrastructure transformation, if you look at it purely from the terms of employment generation,
yes,
it had a quantum impact in the last 1.5 decades, which actually rather
okay. So those cascading
decade,
effects you're saying should also be seen, which give us the holistic impact of course, these milestones as well. Point taken, Pathikrit. Stay with us. In fact, let's quickly turn now to this next milestone which comes in regarding, again, one of the big projects, and we're going to be speaking about that in the next couple of milestones as well, that were inaugurated this year. So India's longest sea bridge, the Atal Setu, was inaugurated this year. What makes this sea bridge significant?
Okay, 21.8 kilometers, 6 lanes of a highway, India's longest sea bridge, the 12th longest sea bridge in the world, more importantly, from start to finish completed in just over 5 years. It's operational. What used to be a 42-kilometer drive, which used to take an hour, 2 hours, sometimes longer, between Mumbai and Navi Mumbai, can now be done in 20 minutes. Yes, we've been having discussions of how much the toll should be and it should come down in the per day, that conversation will go on. But this bridge is going to last 100, maybe longer years. I want you to think about that we've built this in less than 5 years. My neighbor took longer to build their house. That's why it's a milestone.
Yes. The next milestone also is on another big inauguration this year, India's first undersea tunnel. That's milestone number 39. India's first undersea tunnel was inaugurated this year itself in Mumbai, Maharashtra, Rishabh.
So the inaugurations happened pretty much on the same day at the same time by the Prime Minister. Okay. So the first sea bridge of that scale, the longest sea bridge, and India's first undersea tunnel also operating and now giving the ecosystem. The reason this is so important because Mumbai, Uday, you travel there often, okay? We know that transportation infrastructure is a problem. The city is congested because remember Mumbai is on a strip of peninsular land, unlike northern Indian cities which have room to expand like Delhi. Mumbai is limited, so it expands up. It goes into high rises. High rises means more vehicles. Greater economic growth means more vehicles on the road. You have to get these things right, and it almost seemed like entire Mumbai is a construction zone. For people living in Mumbai, that's been a nightmare. So it's good to see that these things are being built, and the only way to build things in Mumbai is either to go below or to go over. So now we are doing both.
Yes, indeed. The next milestone, that's number 40, was also on a very important infrastructure project that was inaugurated this year, and that is India's first elevated highway, the Dwarka Expressway. That was thrown open to the public this year. It was inaugurated this year, which of course is in the vicinity of the Delhi NCR region. Why is this highway so important?
Okay, I want you to think about it. So Dwarka is part of the metropolitan area of the National Capital Territory of Delhi. Okay, it's an upcoming metropolitan area. Now I want you can see the visuals on your screens. The reason this is something special is because this 29-kilometer highway is an elevated highway. So I want you to think about it, a multi-lane, 8-lane highway there on your screens with the side lanes included, okay, is elevated, which means that the interconnectivity between two places has become much faster, but also the ability to traverse the highway, which is a major headache for local people, is that if you have farmland on both sides, how do you traverse the highway? Where is the U-turn? Where is the underpass? Because you build an elevated highway, everything fundamentally changes. So we are now doing this also in record time. Big ticket item that has happened, 18.9 kilometers bridge elevated, okay, largest ever done in India, sets the case. For example, if you want to do the NH8 from where it starts in Delhi near the airport in Dhola all the way till heading off into Manesar, the future you cannot go wider, you're already maxed out, so you'll have to do double headed highways. So you'll have to have in one direction roads going or two separate levels. That's probably coming next.
Yes. Okay. Let's quickly explore point number 42 now, 41 beg your pardon now, the 41st milestone that has of course been inaugurated, and that is to do with aviation, the air sector. 15 airport projects including 12 new terminal buildings across different cities have been inaugurated this year. This has been a big transformation of the aviation sector, Rishabh. What's significant about these inaugurations?
Pretty much every airport that you now travel to either is just being rebuilt, is being rebuilt, there is a terminal being rebuilt, there's a runway being added, or a brand new airport is being done. So let me just tell you, if you go to Chennai, you have seen the airport infrastructure completely change in the past few years. If you go to Bengaluru, you see a new airport inaugurated. If you go to Goa, you go to Dehradun. In Delhi, we are making the first city to have a second airport, which is coming up in Jewar in UP, and it is near completion. Within probably this year or 2025, we are going to see the inaugural of that airport. The first flights take off. I know a lot of trial runs have to happen over there. Delhi has already hit 150 destinations connected. So you are seeing a fundamental explosion in aviation that is taking place in sheer availability. Udan scheme and all we've talked about earlier. But in the physical infrastructure of aviation, 15 airport projects, including that revamped terminal building in Delhi and all the others I mentioned in Dehradun, in Goa, in Chennai, in the Northeast, all of them in Bengaluru, all of them have come up big milestones.
Yes, Pathakrit Pai, let me quickly draw you in here. It has been a big moment, of course, for the aviation sector. 15 projects in just 1 year alone, 12 new airport terminal buildings, apart from, of course, the new sea tunnels and sea bridges and new elevated expressways, in 2024.
So I'll just add two more things in addition to this, connected to this. One is the offshore exploration of minerals and the deep sea ports that India has started working on. One is the Visinjam.
Yes.
Something big is also
we'll be coming to those also shortly.
Over Island. Yes. So on the larger context, it is very important. Again, if you look at the aviation sector, for a country with a $4 trillion economy, we have already ordered almost around 1,200 aircrafts in the last few years. So you require infrastructure in terms of ensuring that it can be absorbed, people to people connect can be increased. Business has become extremely critical today. Time is of relevance. So it's far more easier for people today to travel from Ahmedabad, say, to Mumbai and come back very soon. So infrastructure development has been manifold in multiple layers, whether it is railways, whether it is roads, whether it is sea routes, and also the aviation sector. Again, I would just add to all that has been rightly mentioned by Rishabh. Look at the quantum, impact it has in terms of employment generation. Whether you talk about the services, the number of airlines coming up today, you see consolidation happening in the aviation sector, companies coming up. Yes, some companies did, die down, but larger companies have consolidated and they're far more stable, far more have the resources to expand into the next realm altogether. And the number of people which are getting jobs it's far more easier. Say, for example, in Bengal, it's far more easier for somebody in Dhanbad or Durgapur to take a flight and come to Delhi. Now they don't need to, go to Calcutta to take a flight. So time has, a lot of time can be saved. It can be transformed into productivity.
Yes.
Overall, if you look at it, McKinsey had stated long time back, infrastructure development by India can lead to 1.5 to 2% GDP growth rate every year, merely on investment in infrastructure in terms of improving productivity. That is what Prime Minister Modi has done. You would see the impact in the next 10 years even more, and we are on the track to become a $5 trillion economy in 2027 and probably by 2034 a $10 trillion economy. He is setting the foundation for that. All I can say.
Stay with us. Let's quickly now turn to this next big milestone coming in. 42, in fact, India's first deep water container transshipment port was inaugurated. Patik was just speaking about the ports. Well, the first deep water container transshipment port inaugurated in Vizhinjam in Kerala.
Uday, this one milestone is a puzzle piece of several milestones. Okay, the Vizhinjam port is just 20 kilometers from Thiruvananthapuram airport. More importantly, it is just 10 nautical miles from one of the world's busiest sea lanes that traverses a large percentage, 50-60% of the global trade that is going through the Arabian Sea, through the coast of India, into the Straits of Malacca, into Southeast Asia and other parts of Asia. Okay, this port is now sitting just 10 nautical miles away from this sea lane. Okay, it is going to be India's first fully automated port, which means transshipment means that a ship that is, let's say, coming from Southeast Asia, from the Straits of Malacca, today has to probably either be doing transshipment out of Singapore or Shanghai or Dubai. Okay, now they have a point on this Indian peninsula, because India of course has a dominant position on the Indian Ocean, just 10 nautical miles away. So it's cost effective, an automated port, and this one single port, when it is maxed out in capacity at roughly 6.5 million TEUs, this one port will nearly double India's transshipment capacity. Transshipment means that the container is coming from one part going to a different part, but it needs to change ships in a particular conveniently located port. So this one ship can drop off, then head back on a route, and then this ship can take up and head on to further. This plays on to later on, as we are thinking eventually not only the Suez Canal, but then you build the IMEC corridor. But just think about it, one port is going to nearly double India's transshipment capacity.
Yes,
milestone.
Absolutely. Milestone number 43 now, which we'd like to quickly examine, is on the world's longest twin lane tunnel. Now that has been inaugurated in Sela in Arunachal Pradesh. So another big boost for connectivity in the northeast through this project, Rishabh.
I mean, fundamentally important for the people of Arunachal Pradesh, fundamentally important is the Sela tunnel, okay, because of the security of the border state of Arunachal Pradesh. This is a 3-kilometer long under mountain tunnel. It is the longest bi-lane tunnel in the world. It is connecting, of course, through in the Sela tunnel, providing all-weather connectivity going up through Assam into Arunachal Pradesh. It's a game changer for not only the security establishment but for the people living there. I can't explain if you've been part of logistic operations for the Indian Army in Arunachal Pradesh, how much of a difference this is about to make your life.
Absolutely. Milestone number 44, quickly examining that now for our viewers, the Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link. Now this has finally been completed in 2024. Very, very important rail link in Jammu and Kashmir has been now finally completed, Rishabh.
You know, the photograph which is on your screen, and we put some details on our screens, that is that Chenab Bridge, which was inaugurated. You saw Ashwini Vaishnav, the then railway minister, inaugurating this bridge. Okay, so that is part of this link. The biggest security problem for India is the Srinagar highway, because the Srinagar highway is surrounded by peaks that are on the other side of the LOC. It's not an all-weather highway. So you need to build the tunnels, you need to build the bridges, and you need to be creating infrastructure in the sense of rail traffic. And this Udhampur Srinagar Baramulla rail link has now been completed. That photograph, and on your screens, ladies and gentlemen, that bridge, it is one of the highest bridges, rail bridges in the world. In the sheer drop to the valley, one of the highest in the world. It's in itself a milestone, let alone completing the railway track.
Absolutely, and as part of this rail link as well, which has now been thrown open. Milestone number 45, quickly examining now the Border Roads Organization, that's the BRO. Well, they were also hard at work this year. They completed 111 projects worth 3,571 crore rupees, and there's one of them being thrown open by the Defence Minister.
Yes, there's Rana Singh photograph on your screen. The reason this is important is because we had a very strange philosophy in this country that the best way to keep our security of our frontiers was not to build any infrastructure in them. And gradually, those frontiers got depopulated because people started leaving, right? Access to our own armed forces was limited, and therefore suddenly we noticed one day that you know what, the Chinese have built a road through Aksai Chin. So what are the lessons of history? The lessons of history told you that for the economy, for security, you need rail and road links to India's northernmost, westernmost, easternmost mountainous frontiers. The BRO had the capacity to build them. You've seen the Sela tunnel, which they've already constructed, which is in Arunachal. But have a look at this. Beyond that, they completed 111 road, tunnel and bridge projects, just the BRO, worth 3,500 crores in 2024. What a remarkable achievement.
Yes, and the final milestone that we're going to be looking at in this particular segment is milestone number 46 on, of course, another key port that was constructed this year. So rather, the construction has begun this year finally. So India has begun construction of the Vadhavan port, that is in Maharashtra, this year. And when it is completed, how significant will this be, Rishabh?
Okay, we are talking about, the reason this is groundbreaking is because you're building a deep sea port pretty much from scratch. Okay, so this is pretty much a greenfield project or a green sea project. Okay, which means that when India is looking at its deep sea capacity, you are about to double your transshipment capacity. But in Maharashtra, in the district of Vadhavan, you're going to be building a deep sea port, which is going to be a crucial part of the link that we see in developing India not only as an export hub, because a large amount of your exports will have to go via sea. Okay, 70, 80, 90% of your exports will have to go via sea. And the percentage of transportation logistic costs in that really matter as your competitive advantage. Get ready for one of the largest deep sea ports in the world, including the largest deep sea port coming up in Maharashtra, near where you are.
Absolutely. So that's, of course, going to be the focus in the coming few years. But for now, we will continue to track the milestone of this year through the course of this marathon telecast on NewsX. So stay tuned for our upcoming segments. But for now, it's time for a very short break. Rishabh Gulati and Pathikrit Pain, thank you very much for joining us.